Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this world. We're here for another edition of WOWSA Live with a special guest and our host, Ned Denison. Ned?
Hello, everyone. I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. I also have the pleasure of having participated in a swim run by our next guest. He's also a member of the executive committee of the Hall of Fame, Richard Brewer from the Netherlands. Richard, please introduce yourself. Make it at least 5 times longer than my introduction.
Oh dear. Um, my name is Richard Brewer. I've been swimming since 67, I believe. I've open water swimming since 74 and increasing the distances and increasing my participation in open water swimming. Well, channel swims, including I did the Strait of Gibraltar. I was the first Dutchman to do that. And the last few years, I've been more specializing in relay swims and solo swims across the English Channel and across what we call the IJsselmeer in the Netherlands.
So
I do
Richard,
a little bit of training for swimmers. I do coaching, facilitation for long distance swimming. Sorry, Ned.
so help everybody understand the significance of the IJsselmeer in Dutch open water.
The IJsselmeer swim is from the town of Stavoren, which is in the province of Friesland, 21 kilometers across a rather large lake, which used to be a sea, to Medemblik. And the circumstances can vary quite a bit. You can have no waves, you can have choppy waves, or you can have big waves. Big waves are really, you don't get that often. The choppy waves, you have choppy waves until somewhere around 8 or 9 Beaufort, and after that it's really stormy. It can be swum with those wind forces, as you may well know, Ned. It's a good challenge. We swim it with sailing boats as pilot boats, and usually those pilots are quite experienced. There are about 10 very experienced pilots, and usually during the race event, there is also a race event across the IJsselmeer, when that's somewhere in August usually. And well, there are some less experienced pilots as well, but they don't get the slow, they don't get the fast swimmers appointed to them.
And in the last 30 years, how many of the Dutch honorees or world champions have plied their trade in the IJsselmeer? Is it every single one of them?
Most of them. Yeah, I'm not sure every one of them. I don't remember if Herman Willemsen did the IJsselmeer, but he did a lot of professional swims, including the single one that was organized within the Netherlands. But it is not. It does not cater to professionals. At one time, he became a professional, and then Hermann wasn't allowed to swim in the Netherlands anymore because he was a professional.
You had the pleasure of meeting Hermann a couple of years ago. Tell us about the circumstances, and I think it was your first time meeting the gentleman.
I had seen him before. I'd seen him a few times. I hadn't spoken to him before that, but I went to the Isle of Texel, or Texel, two pronunciations, to give him a really nice award called, well, we call it the Dale Award, and that is for services to the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. He was one of the founding fathers, And I went to him. I went to his house in on Texel. I hadn't been to the island before, so that was quite a bit of an adventure. Well, it was a good meet. He told me a little bit about the swimming he did all across the world. He told me about the 2 books he wrote. I think they are both in the Swimming Hall of Fame library. Well, it was a good day.
And
he is getting on, and he is getting older, and he's not that well anymore. He prefers not to travel anymore.
you've been involved with the Technical Open Water Swimming Committee in the Netherlands for a number of years. We recently had an interview with Ronnie Wong, who's the global chairman of the TOWSC. Can you tell us what the local Dutch group does, and then maybe explain to us why we continue to see Dutch champions in the Olympics and the Olympics and the Olympics and the Olympics and the Olympics?
Yeah, well, we had a few medals, haven't we? Let's see, what do I say about that? Technical Open Water Swimming Committee is part of the Dutch Federation, the Royal Dutch Swimming Association, and we organize and sanction Dutch events that are organized by Dutch swim teams within the federation. In the Netherlands, there used to be about 50, 60 swims, which fell under the federation, and those were the only swims there, except for 1 or 2, which we called illegal or wild swims. The last 10 years, there have come quite a few new wild swims, and they're not illegal anymore for Dutch swimmers to participate in. We have the city swims, and we have the swim to fight cancer and those swims. But the Technical Open Water Swimming Committee sanctions the swims that fall under the federation. We have a competition that is over all the swims. We have a point system for freestyle, and we have the same for breaststroke. And we have a winner over all the swims. We call him or her and her a champion in that sense.
And describe some of these. You've described the IJsselmeer across the freshwater lake that used to be the saltwater ocean. Describe some of the more unusual sanctioned swims, city locations, narrow canals, things that international people wouldn't even think of.
Well, if you look at the map in the Netherlands, there are quite a few canals, and there are quite a few lakes. For instance, if you land with your airplane in Schiphol, you're landing in a former lake. The Haarlemmermeer, the lake in which Schiphol is built, has a ring that is water, and that ring of water is at sea level. So we can pump the water out easily, which means the airport is about 2-3 meters below sea level. If the dikes break, yes, the wheels get wet. That lake can be swum, the ring of the lake. And those kinds of canals are quite abundant in the Netherlands, and you can have races in them. For instance, near Steenwijk, we have quite a narrow canal. It's about 15-20 meters wide, and we swim that. That's a race, and that's quite a traditional race in the sense that it is 2.5 kilometers out and 2.5 kilometers back if you swim the 5K. And that used to be our first Open Dutch Championships for open water swimming. Well, we've been organizing these these races since somewhere in 1948, when open water swimming became a discipline within the Dutch Federation. And there's almost always been a technical open water committee that organizes it. What the open water committee also does is have a yearly what we call a meeting, but it's more of a congress. It's sort of seminar, and we have workshops at it. Swimmers go there, trainers go there, and organizers go there, and people of the jury, the officials, go there. Ned, you spoke somewhere earlier before and another date about the White Brigade. Yes, they're there. They won't be there in the white pants, but it's part of our tradition to have a good officialing of all the events. We don't do an open water race with five jury members. We have at least two officials on the water with the swimmers. We have timekeepers. We have referees on the side of the water, and at the finish pontoon, we do it, well, we think, correctly.
For those of you who missed the previous interview, I commented that when I went to the IJsselmeer, I saw more people dressed in white than I'd ever seen in my entire life. And these were the officials that Richard is talking about.
Yeah.
Richard, you mentioned...
for instance, on the IJsselmeer, if you have 25 participants, you have 25 officials. For each swimmer, one official, because every swimmer needs an official to see if the swimmer does the swim correctly. You may call it an observer, like we do on the English Channel, but the jury has quite an important function here. The jury also is also instructed about stroke frequency, about breathing, about feeding. If the swimmer doesn't feed at all, the official will ask questions to the coach, at least.
You mentioned breaststroke, which is a stroke not often seen in several countries, but it's a strong tradition in the Netherlands.
It is.
Just describe the tradition and typically how many swimmers you have.
It is quite a strong tradition. We started it somewhere around 1948. There were always breaststroking swimmers in the freestyle event. Because we had this competition over all the swims, the breaststrokers thought, well, we can do exactly the same for breaststroke, and we'll use another color of cap. And in no time, the start was separated, and we had quite a good competition for many, many years. In the best years, there were about half of the amount of freestyle swimmers doing breaststroke. If you had 100 swimmers doing the 2 kilometers of freestyle, you would have about 50 doing breaststroke.
And for some of these swims in the narrow canal, how do you keep the swimmers, so many swimmers in such a small canal? Is it different starts, or how does it work?
Thus far, we rarely use the wave start, but usually we swim with a lot of swimmers at one time. We swim male, and the next start would be female. We don't mix two medal races together, if possible. With breaststroke, the numbers have declined during the last somewhere 30 years. When it's under 25 swimmers in total for male and female, we do tend to get them together because it takes too much time to have too many starts. We are experimenting with wave starts, especially with the events that are quite short, the 2 kilometer events, the 1 kilometer events, and I would like, but that's my opinion, to have all the starts, say 500 people swimming in the canal at once, with a wave start with as many as 50 swimmers start at a time. I mentioned the swim in Steenwijk, which is where Marty Veen inauguree comes from, and he organized that swim. The canal is quite narrow, and when you have a big start, say 75 to 100 people, you need to widen the canal. That's not really possible, but we only use one half of the canal to swim up, and the other half to swim down.
So you're the Dutch. We believe you. We believe you widen the canal. Yeah, well, you're Dutch.
No, we have a rope, a line, a buoy line in the center of the lane of the canal. So you have, say, 10 meters on the left of the canal and 10 meters on the right of the canal. So that we widen the canal that way. We move the rope a bit, and after 100 or 200 meters, the field is stretched. We have slow swimmers, like swimmers that, if you hear a cat, I have a cat below me. Sorry about that.
You might open the dike, Richard. It'll stop the cat from making noise.
Maybe, but this kind of cat really likes water. It's a swimming cat, really. We widen the canal for the start, so the start is 20 meters wide, and then it narrows in the first 200 meters. We have quite a few events that do it that way.
Richard, a little bit of history, which I'd like you to educate people on. Long before the internet was as powerful as it was, you were really the guy who pulled together all of these swims in Europe and presented them in one place. Can you tell us about some of that early work and the research and how it was meaningful for you to do this?
Well, the Dutch Federation had a booklet with all of the events in it as a commercial thing. Well, not really commercial, but it was sent to all the participating teams with all the events in it. And I thought with the coming of internet in 98, I believe, for me it was 98, that it would be a good idea to have that booklet online, so people can read it online. So in that first booklet, there were about 25 events, and I noticed there were some events in Belgium as well. So I added those to the website, and then I did some research and found that the British Long Distance Swimming Association had quite a few events, and Germans also have events, and France also has events. So I added those. It became a really big calendar with about 200-300 events on it. And luckily, I had some help. Nick Kloots helped me with building the website a bit better technically, and helping me with finding new events. So we finally we built a new website, openwaterswimming.eu, because the Dutch swimmers did not like all the events in all those different languages on the website. So we pulled the international website out of the Netherlands Open Water Web.
This was really quite instrumental in getting people to start to travel.
Yeah. And look at other countries, how they do it, and look at other traditions, how they do it. And it's quite interesting to go to Belgium. I love being in Belgium with open water events, just because, well, they're more easygoing there. It's just more fun.
Better food.
It's not as racing as we are used to in the Netherlands. The first place is, of course, important, and the winner should be decided. Of course, that's what an event is about. But if you look at the White Brigade, they have a pause in the middle and they drink a nice glass of beer. That's Belgium, and I love it. I like beer too.
And then finally, you've been active on the English Channel for a number of years. You've taken a number of soloers, a number of relays. Pick out one relay team from your collection, and tell us why they were different, how you trained them, and what their experience was across the channel.
I can take two, but I'm Channel Team Bossenaar. That's my first team I had as a coach. It is now the town I live in. Bossenaar is the place I live, but I used to live somewhere else. And that team was training together, and one of them had a niece that died because of a really aggressive form of cancer, and they wanted to do something. They wanted to swim something for charity, and they thought, well, let's swim the English Channel. Let's arrange a boat and swim. And they began talking to people around here in the Netherlands. Can you help us arrange a boat and swim across the English Channel? Their trainer, which was a friend of mine, said, no, you're not allowed to do that, because there are Channel Swimming Association and the Channel Swimming and Piloting Federation, and you should you won't be able to swim across the English Channel without their proper what would you call it? Proper
authorization.
Yeah. That trainer contacted me and asked them to ask me, please help them prepare this. What I did was a few things. I let them train in the sea, which is quite nice because Wassenaar is at the sea. And I had them do an IJsselmeer crossing, which was quite interesting for them. They had a lot of wind that day, and was they gained a lot of knowledge doing that. I spoke to them about the procedures, about swimming across the English Channel. In the meantime, I did a channel swim with Michael Oram and a team called IJsselmeerbikkels. In that team, I asked a few mates of mine to swim with me, and we swam 9 hours, just under 9 hours across the English Channel, which was at that time a Dutch record and still is. Next, the team wanted to swim the English Channel, and I gave them the learning possibilities to be able to swim it. They're not really fast swimmers, but they're more diesel-like. They swim about 2.5K to 3.5K an hour. So that's not really that super fast, but it is good enough to swim this swim. I gave them also the experience of swimming in the night. We went to the IJsselmeer and had the same pilot, and we swam in the night. And that is another experience you need to swim the English Channel. You can't decide for yourself, let's go now. You have the tides you have to consider, you have the pilot to consider. The pilot tells you when you're supposed to start. He knows the way. But I had to learn them that. The experience became really nice for them because they had a really good day to swim the English Channel. They swam 12 hours and I believe 8 minutes. And then they said, let's do a double. That double was 2 years later. They took the time to train for that. We also had an extra training swimming 5 times 1 hour with some time in between. Not the same as it's a 6-person team. I swam with 2 hours in between, so you can do that during daylight. It's fine to do, but the experiences add up, and you dissect the experience you need to swim the swim. But they did not consider the fact that the swim on the way up took just about the same, 12 hours and I believe 10 minutes. I was one of the swimmers that time. The first time it was just them. And on the way back, they took about 18 hours. Sorry, that's my phone. What happened was that the high pressure area started on the North Sea, and the water could not go past Dover, and the water stood still in the English Channel. So when they came from the Cap Guinée, they went to the middle. The tide was still running. They went to the middle of the English Channel and then straight over. So they finished somewhere in Hythe, I believe. My. So that was quite an experience. It took about, what was it, 28 hours.
So the high points for me is the team knew each other before they got to Dover.
They did. Most of them knew each other. Yeah.
They trained together. They trained in ways to simulate in and out. They
Right.
did a practice on a real swim, the IJsselmeer. They got some night swimming in.
Yeah.
They trained in the sea, and they had a lot of discussion about what they might see, what they might not see. I think this is a lesson for other relay teams. We had an experience once in Cork where we brought the team together and we said, okay, get ready, get in the water. And it took them probably 30 minutes to pull on their swimming suits and talk and get in the water. They came out after 70 minutes, not 60 minutes, again, making it a little more difficult. They came into a small vehicle and they all got changed. It took them about 15 minutes, and then they had hot soup and things. 2 hours later, back in the ocean. This time it took them 3 minutes to get ready.
Okay,
when
good.
they came back out of the ocean, it took them 2 minutes to get changed to get their hot soup.
Yeah.
And inside the small vehicle was uncomfortable. It was too small. Yeah. And that was also part of the training. I joke that next time we should have a white van and people should be pushing on the side of the van, and there should be mechanical tools in the bottom of the van for them to stumble on.
Yeah. Well, that is the way it is when you have to get dressed at sea. And on the IJsselmeer, it's just the same thing. The boat is bumpy and has makes it difficult to get dressed.
Last question, Richard, is the Dutch did reasonably well in Rio.
Mm-hmm.
Not perfect, but reasonably well. 2 golds.
Almost perfect.
Almost perfect. The finish was a bit close on the men's race.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for Tokyo in a year's time?
Of course, I'm quite sure we'll win all, but no, of course not. But open water racing. It is part tactics. It is part knowing what you're doing and know your limitations before you exceed them. Things like that. Get the right tactic. Maarten van der Weijden had a really good tactic. He just swam in the center of the group, stayed with the pack, and at the last 1,500 meters, he went faster. And the last 100 meters, he went really fast. And that's the way to win these races. And know what your plan is and stick with it. That's how it works. But
we will be interviewing Maarten later this week, and I have one of the questions will be, that plan is great, but how did you know in the last 400 meters you would be faster than David Davies and Thomas Lurs?
He couldn't. But he did know which way he would swim. and he saw the two of them go to the right and fight it out amongst themselves, and he knew he was able to pass them.
Yeah. Richard,
But
thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you shortly.
okay, maybe we'll see each other somewhere in Dover. I hope Dover gets permission to start this year.
They will.
I'm not that sure, because I've heard that some people have to stay 2 weeks in quarantine before swimming.
That will
I
change.
presume the English people would not have to, but that would make it difficult for foreigners to swim the English Channel this year.
That will change.
I hope it will.
It will.